Hey everybody, it has been at least 2 months, maybe longer, since we've really put anything out. I think the last episode we had was the finale of Ahsoka, where Greedo and I discussed that. But we're back. Two of us anyway, two out of three. Um, we had the Spice Mines grabbed Gundark at the last minute, and she wasn't able to make it. But you do have the us two losers, the less interesting of the three, uh, and we're here to bore you for the next little period of time. So,
The least
so
interesting men in the galaxy.
yes, exactly. You got us right here. So, what we just wanted to talk about here today was obviously we have the news. We'll just start off with this. We have the news of John Favreau being promoted to basically creative, the in charge of all creative decisions at Lucasfilm. So he's going to be running the show as far as deciding what content they make and in what direction that content goes. So, what are your gut instinct thoughts on that, Greedo?
Um, uh, like everything, I'm sort of divided.
Yeah.
uh, uh, this is what I hoped for years because I would have picked the I would have gone along with the narrative that he was Lucas's apprentice, kind of,
Hmm.
and that working hand in hand with Lucas on Clone Wars and stuff is better than anything anyone else at Lucasfilm had going on, right?
Yeah.
Um, Except for a lot of the creative types and people that have been there forever, like John Knoll or whatever. I don't even know if he really works with Lucasfilm. He pitched Rogue One. A lot of people got to pitch their ideas,
Hmm.
but I just feel like they should have continued in that vein of the people with seniority and the people that have been there a long time, the people that were involved, getting their ideas to the forefront.
Hmm.
Whereas we got a Lucasfilm story group that has infamously been shown to be like TV writers, like
Yeah.
for CW or something, and you know what I
Yeah.
mean, and just some
Yeah.
things that just don't seem to make sense to me, and with the sequel trilogy having no plan and all the constant upheaval at every single project they ever do from Solo to Obi-Wan series, a few years ago I'd have loved that, but I don't know that Filoni's always kind of acted like in a way humble, like he's not quite ready, like
Hmm.
like he's not pushing for it because he knows his own limitations, and maybe he hasn't been ready, and maybe we're seeing still his evolution into the guy who can bring us live action content and content across all these formats and keep it at a high level. Because what gave me second thoughts was Ahsoka, of the series.
Hmm.
And I liked Ahsoka the series, but it peaked in the middle, and it had no tension whatsoever to the story except for like one or two episodes had a little bit of tension, and they did everything they could to diffuse the tension. And I just feel like whoever was in charge of that, um, in a lot of ways, like some of the other series, Book of Boba Fett,
Hmm.
Obi-Wan, there was hardly any tension except for the exact moments that you would expect there to be tension.
Right.
Almost you couldn't avoid it. You know what I mean? But they did everything they could to avoid it. And so I just feel like whoever's in charge needs a lesson in pacing, and they need some editors that are pretty epic. Like I'm not criticizing the editing at all. It's just somewhere you have to manufacture a storyline that has a push, and that grabs your interest, and that you feel like there's stakes.
Yeah, of
And
course.
Ahsoka just felt lazy the whole time to me. Like even when they're running from the zombie troopers, it felt more like kind of, well, this is like a puzzle or something that we need to
Hmm.
figure out. It didn't feel. Um, it
Like it
came.
was really life or death. Yeah.
No, yeah, it wasn't a lethal. And even though Thrawn won, it was almost just by default, just because he had everything going for him. He sacrificed so much just to win against a couple of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think you get what I'm saying, don't you?
I did. Yeah.
I want you to tell me what you think, because I'm happy. A few years ago, I would have been absolutely ecstatic, but I don't know that it's enough of a change with with the people there, above him and around him, that have given us some of the debacles. But I'm not somebody who totally dismisses their contributions either, because we got things like Rogue One and the first, couple of seasons of The Mandalorian. Um, so I'm not ready to say, oh, no more of the same. That's terrible. But I don't know if it's enough of a shakeup. And he's such a nice guy. you
Yeah.
know, he
No, that's a
seems
good
like such
point.
a kill
That's
him
a
with
valid point.
kindness. And is he going to really take charge? And um, we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. But what are your thoughts on it?
Well, in keeping with the theme here of no tension and low stakes, I'm going to agree with you. And I'm there. As far as Dave Filoni taking over, like you said, I'm happy about it. But 2, 3 years ago, I would have been over the moon about it.
Yeah, I think we're in the
I
same
would have been
spot.
ecstatic. Now
Yeah,
I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, that's a good move. But we'll
you probably would
see.
have been even more happy, even happier than me, because you're such a you're such a fan of his
Right,
work.
right. Yeah, I'm a huge
Whereas
fan
it's
of his
taken me
work.
more
Yeah,
time. The prequels and beyond Lucasfilm took me a long time to warm up to.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I always liked Revenge of the Sith when the first time I saw it in the theater, because it was so different. But
Hmm.
it was basically one out of three. I just did not care for the prequels except for that one.
Hmm.
And then the Clone Wars style animation, as soon as I saw it, turned me off
I
to
remember
that.
that turned you off.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I remember
yeah,
I
I
kept trying
was.
to say, dude, you need to watch this. This is really good. You're like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like that animation
Yeah,
style. I'm not in the mood for something like
it
that.
was really strange to me. But once you, it's just like anything weird. Like if you go see a band perform and they're doing this outlandish stuff on stage, and you're like, these guys are really desperate for attention. But then if you just give it a minute, 20 minutes into their set, you forget what they're doing. If their music is good,
Right.
if the 10th time they do a backflip or whatever, you're like, hey, all right, he's
All
doing
right.
backflips.
Yeah, go
They
for
win
it.
you over if they're, yeah, they win you over if they're good enough with it. That's what Clone Wars is like. Once you get to that first startling conclusion or cliffhanger or a moment you didn't expect,
Hmm.
you're like, this is bigger than a standard episodal cartoon.
Right.
There's some stuff here
Right.
I can get a hold of, and that's when you start to get pulled into it. I had the benefit of approaching it after it was all finished, except for the last. I watched it before the last season, but I
Hmm.
had like whatever 6 seasons, 5.5 seasons of stuff to pick through,
Yeah,
so I could watch the quality parts of it,
sure.
and appreciate it even more without having to wait. but
Right.
anyway, Dave Filoni, I wonder. I think a lot of fans are going to assume he's got Lucas on speed dial,
Yeah, that's
and
that's kind of the thing in the back of your head. It's like, so what is he just gonna constantly be talking to George about every little decision,
mhm,
or, I don't know. That's something that's kind of interesting to know. Not that we'll maybe ever know the answer to that question, but yeah, I think that's one thing that people are going to look at this. The people who look at it positively, I think, are going to come at it from that angle of, okay, this is his, he was raised under Lucas. Lucas, mentored him through the whole Clone Wars process, and brought him into the Star Wars, creative umbrella, holding his hand. So that's great. How can it be any better? But at the same time, Lucas isn't without flaw either. Obviously, yes,
no,
he created all this stuff, but we've had our own issues with him as well. But and then of course there's the other people that make this argument, and I'd love to know what you think about this argument. It's okay, so now Dave Filoni's here. We've seen his work, so that just means that we're never going to have another original story ever again. Because basically what he
he's
does is
going
he
to be
just takes
fleshing
all the
out
old
things.
stuff.
Yeah,
He just takes all the old stuff and just rehashes it and does fan
right.
service, and that's all we're ever going to get
Yeah, we'll
anymore.
get a whole series about who's the bounty hunter with the hat.
Cad Bane. I was just about to
We'll
say
get
we'll get a
cat.
whole
We'll get
Cad
a
Bane set
no,
bounty.
no, not Cad Bane. His droid.
Oh yeah,
We'll get the
the
whole
droid.
backstory of his droid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. With cameos by Cad Bane.
right, right. No, I think there's something to be said for where is the Mandalorian? Is it like
Yeah.
that? Is the big success that I can think of,
Yep.
um, that Filoni had. Ahsoka was his baby. I expected a ton more than we got from it. I was happy enough with it. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but we're, people are like, who are you guys to judge this stuff? Well, that's just what we've put ourselves in a position to do here. We are
Yeah.
nobody to judge it. We have no
Right.
influence. They could care less what we think. But
Exactly.
that's what we do this for fun, and we always have.
Yeah.
So if it's not fun for you, I'm sorry, but we're not sitting in a seat of judgment, like thinking we're better than anyone else.
No,
We're
no, no.
not.
Like that's not
We're
where this
just
comes from at
discussing it
all.
because the discussion is where we had to spend years between movies, when we were kids, discussing all this stuff and
Hmm.
reading between the lines and imagining what was a Clone War. What
Hmm.
who were the clones? Are the stormtroopers robots, and if so, how did they wear their armor? Because you never saw the body. I mean, there was so many things we had to try to figure out and mull over and figure out what made sense to us. And so this is just what we do. We're not saying our opinions are really worth anything. It's just we go totally by what we like.
Yep.
It's like, I mean, I know much about art, but I know what I like.
Right.
And sometimes that changes over time too, as well. But when I think about these series that have been done over time, um, the Mandalorian is the one that I'm still most impressed with. Like, I don't really want to go back and watch Book of Boba Fett again, even though I thought it had a couple of brilliant
Yeah,
episodes.
sure.
It's just, as overall as works, none of the stories, if they had that pacing where every episode was ending on pushing you forward to the
Cliffhanger
next one.
or
Yeah,
something leading you into the
action.
next episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something where you're on the edge of your seat. That's the kind of stuff I want to see.
Yeah.
Not just another lightsaber fight or another whatever it is, another discussion. And Ahsoka, they went so far out of their way to break the tension.
Yeah, they
Um,
really
they
did.
yeah, they'd be stranded. Their ship is stranded. Enemies everywhere. They don't know when the enemies are going to show up, and they're sitting there polishing their guns,
Right.
and having just slow discussions and not even really looking outside. They put the droid outside by himself with
Yeah,
no
exactly.
no
They're
one
not
to
even
keep a
checking to
lookout
see if
or
anyone's
anything.
coming
Yeah,
after them. Yeah.
it's like they did everything they could to make you think, huh, ho hum. We're in an unknown galaxy, not just an
Hmm.
unknown planet. And then that penultimate episode where Ezra says, I feel like I finally get the feeling I'm gonna go home. It's like, dude, this show wasn't about you. And you're
Yeah.
happy to go lucky you get to go home. We should be going headfirst into this clash with Thrawn, and
Right.
instead they're all just kind of chill, like,
Hmm.
business as
Right.
usual.
No, you're right. And I thought that I think Ahsoka was probably the worst as far as or the most guilty as far as what you're saying. The breaking
Hmm.
the tension at any possible moment. When they had that moment that they could have ratcheted up the tension and made it a little bit more interesting, and ending I don't know if every episode, but most episodes seem to end on just a happy high five. As opposed to
Yeah, yeah.
oh dun dun dun, what's going to happen next? Kind of thing. It
And
was more
you
like that whole, hey, it looks like I get to go home after
yeah.
all. Yay! It's almost like a 70s freeze frame.
Right,
And
yeah.
they're gonna end the
Let's
episode, like every
remember the
episode is a
power
happy
of
moment.
friendship.
Yeah.
Uh, no, and you start to wonder. I do, like, have all the years of animated cells where, like, basically go, okay, now Ahsoka reacts in this second and a half. So narrow her eyebrows here.
Right.
Yeah, take the line that is her mouth and move it up a quarter of an inch on one side.
Right, give her a
Um,
smirk.
yeah, do one eyebrow up on the other side. This many, and that's it. And then we move on. And then all the years of helmets. It's like we have these great actors and stuff, but almost everyone's wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
Almost everyone's having to carry scenes like Grief Cargo. Mando.
Man, no.
I have to be the big personality in the room because there are no
Because
others.
everyone else is just quiet and behind their masks. Yeah.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
facial expressions visible. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm in a
that is
galaxy
a
of people waiting for something to happen.
exactly
Yeah.
that's an inherent flaw in the system that they've established. You're right. They do have all these helmeted characters that just and it's not that helmeted characters can't emote or express emotion. You just have to have the pretty people to be able to pull that off and the stakes
Yes.
and the situations to create that moment.
Yes.
So that's the thing that's
And
missing.
it's just stakes, and then it's having an overall story. They've kept so much under wraps, which I can understand this because you don't know the moment has arrived to reveal your story half the time. Like, oh, I better hold this back. I better hold this back. I better hold it. But we don't know what's going on with the Empire still after all
Yeah,
these shows and
after all these
everything.
shows.
Yeah, we just get more questions, and it's starting to seem like learned as much from J.J. Abrams as we did from George Lucas.
Right.
Mystery box, mystery box, mystery box.
Hmm.
Um, now there have been things that have been good. They've moved on from things like the who was the Dark Brother, the Inquisitor character that everybody
Yeah.
was freaking out about. He played his part and they moved on. That was it,
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. But I don't know. I just feel like I wish there was more of a. I still feel like the original characters that we know have more of a push as far as we can predict what they're into and what they want out of life, than these
Yeah.
all the new characters combined. Is
Hmm.
like Boba Fett just all of a sudden wanted to be a crime boss, and he only really tried to explain himself like for a few sentences, like why he wanted that out of all of a sudden out of his whole life. Um, he suddenly wants to be the crime boss.
All right,
And
exactly.
yeah, yeah, and we got a lot of backstory that should have informed that, but all it said was you need a group. I realized I can't go alone at this anymore. Well, there's lots of ways to build a group, you
Yeah.
know. Why the crime boss thing? And but anyway, yeah, that's the main thing is can we get into a format that is compelling to watch for more than just us? Because I think we'll turn on almost
Yeah.
and we'll come and give it a low rating if we don't think it's very good. But I'm not gonna stop watching it.
No,
I'm
no,
gonna
same here.
yeah.
Yeah, and this is kind of the crux of the main topic I wanted to talk about anyway, is, where do we feel like things are creatively in the Star Wars universe right now? How good are these shows really? Obviously we've had several now. We've had 3 seasons of Mandalorian, we've had Obi-Wan, we've had Ahsoka, we've had, Andor, we've got other things coming where, now that we have a decent sized body of work to really look back on, how are we ultimately feeling about this right now? For myself, I'm feeling pretty disappointed. I have enjoyed it, not to say I've hated it by any means.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it,
Yeah.
but when I really look back, I'm like, beyond seasons 1 and 2 of Mandalorian and most of Andor, it's just kind of, it's all right. It's entertaining. That's it. Nothing, by no
Yeah.
means is it jaw breaking or jaw dropping or anything like that. So I don't know. That's
Yeah. There's
what is your overall impression at this point based on the body of work?
like you said, I everything that we watch and we rate has gotten a pretty high rating. Even Obi-Wan, which I felt like to me was just when I look back at it, all I'm left with is this crushing disappointment feeling.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
even though there was some great stuff in it, I only seem to remember the stuff that's just like, why did they do that? But I think the whole thing has been worth it. Um, but I do wish Lucas had been more involved. Seeing how the sequels turned out, I would have rather Lucas have just been involved in the sequels to
Yeah,
begin with. That
yeah.
they didn't have to use his exact scripts, but they could have approached him in a better way
In a
to keep him
creative
involved, to
capacity,
keep him
yeah.
as an executive producer.
Right.
Yeah, and really get more of that what he intended in there. They needed something because the sequels were just a disaster, and I feel like everything else has been playing it safe. Pretty much. There really
Yeah.
hasn't been anything amazingly startling.
Nope.
Uh, when I
Yeah,
look at
everything's been very
Disney,
cautious. Yeah.
yeah. When I look at Disney, my favorite thing is Rogue One.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is. And then The
Same here.
Mandalorian is right there behind it. But when I look at where the Mandalorian character started, I know he softened in the whole theme of the Mandalorian has been about different family groups and putting together groups and people finding their place. So I understand he softened some, but I miss the guy who pulled the mercenary into the sharp doorway, and the guy
Yeah.
who hung the guy over a light post and left him to be eaten by the
Right.
rats or whatever.
Exactly.
Um, because there's been several instances in the show where he says, "All that matters now is that I take care of this," and then when
Hmm.
it comes time to take care of it, he hesitates.
Yeah.
He actually has, he's like, you get the feeling he's not really driven to finish it because he's lost some of that killer instinct.
Hmm.
Like,
He's
um,
lost that drive.
yeah, it's almost like he waits for the enemy to pick up their weapon again. If he disarms them or something to make it a fair
Hmm.
fight, it's like, I get it, but I just don't see him that way. I don't think he'd care about a fair fight at all,
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
And if he makes up his mind, like that episode where he sent the message to Moff Gideon, basically for no reason warning him he was coming. I mean, that
Yeah,
was that
right.
was a dumb thing to do.
Hmm.
It never was explained why he did it. But if you're going to do it, be that guy, be that guy who's like, I ain't stopping, and you were
Right.
warned, and now you're gonna see, and
Yeah,
but they have to balance the kinder, gentler. But I wish it was more, had kept more of the hardcore stuff
I
going on.
agree. Yeah. And I really had hoped, looking back now, I know we were all kind of hoping that's what we were going to get with Book of Boba Fett, just
Yes,
because of the
yeah,
history of the character is that sort of he didn't couldn't care less
total
about a fair
anti-hero.
fight.
Yeah,
He's just there to, do his job and get paid. And that's all his motivations were. And we end up getting, sort of crime boss slash be a fair guy crime boss sort of. Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. It just
yeah. And when he hired
why
the
why did you
biker
take it that
gang, that was
direction?
the ultimate
Yeah.
weird
Well, that
thing.
was the
Like,
big downfall, I think,
yeah,
of the show at
it
that
made
point.
no sense
Pretty
because,
universal reviews on that stuff was just like, big thumbs
well, I
down.
think they were trying to draw a correlation between him losing his Tuscan family, which had youngsters and stuff in it, and then
Yeah.
him feeling like,
Adopting it, getting
yeah,
adopted by a new
like
family.
here's some more younger energy that I can use,
Hmm.
that are good at something, but they really weren't. They just weren't.
No.
And it's just, it'd be like going into a suburb and finding a bunch of kids hanging around, at a party or whatever, and saying, "You're gonna work for me now and I'm a crime boss." They're like, "What? Really? You're a crime boss?" How's that gonna work out for you? It just
How's
doesn't.
that gonna work
Yeah,
out? Yeah.
it just doesn't seem like it. You're in the wrong neighborhood. You need to go across the tracks to somewhere where they have some experience with this, and not just selling water, if you know what I mean, or whatever they were doing.
Right. Exactly.
but yeah, uh, so Filoni, I'm
Yeah.
happy for him. Hope it's a whole new
Me
era.
too.
But at
Yeah.
this point, we have a huge body of work already that he's been involved in,
Yeah.
and so I do hope it's a new era. I hope he brings somehow brings up some ramps up the energy.
Hmm.
Um, I hope he keeps the artistic background that he's got, with all the artists, because Ahsoka looked beautiful.
Hmm.
It had some awesome art in it. I think art and Star Wars are joined like
Yeah.
this.
I
And
agree. Yeah, the
so, yeah,
visuals have always been so integral to the to to
yeah.
the
And
to
so,
the
if
whole era of
anything,
it.
keep pulling in new artists with their vision. Think of what the vision of just a few artists did for Star Wars.
Hmm.
You just find the artists that have the right vision and everything. Keep bringing them in for inspiration, and then just tighten up. Your characters, but instead of following a formula, which I feel like they did for parts of Ahsoka, where it's like, we have to regress this character so they can go forward. Just don't do that. Know your characters, let them do things that make sense, let them be in places that make sense for their history, let them, breathe, and then put them through it. It's
Hmm.
like, no more of this, we're in the rebellion because it's a slow weekend.
Yeah.
We have nothing better to do right now. It's give us some heroes again, give us some anti-heroes. Just compel us to watch. I just want to be compelled to watch
Yeah.
again. And
Yeah.
and I know the volume has been revolutionary, but the volume also lends itself to this green screen effect where people are just standing in a room and they shuffle from one side of the room to the other side of the room, and it feels confined, even as
It
vast as
does.
the volume
Yeah.
looks.
Yeah, I feel the
Um,
same way. It's like kind of when it started, I
mhm.
was kind of in awe of the technology and thought it was pretty fantastic. And then the more I watch it, I kind of get like what you're saying, Greedo. It's like it has more of a green screeny feel and just this sort of contained room feel to it. It's like
Yes.
I lose the sense of an expansive universe with the shows, and it's just like, oh, they're just cramped in this little room, shuffling, like you said, from side to side, and that's about all we're gonna
Yeah, and
get.
then they say it saves us so much money, but meanwhile, each episode costs like $90 million or
Right.
something. So, how much money did it actually save you in the
Right.
long haul? I guess they're renting out the volume to all kinds of people and stuff, and then they can use
Yeah.
it, so you can make money off of it. It's great. Lucasfilm has always been about technology and pushing technology.
Oh yeah,
So I
absolutely.
like the volume. Don't get me wrong, but it starts feeling Clone Warsy in that, like, again, you have animated cells moving in limited fashions across
Hmm.
backdrops, and you have actors moving across backdrops in limited fashions. Um, but the art in the Clone Wars was amazing. the
Yeah.
way they use camera angles and were able to 3D move cameras through animated environments. I don't think they've been able to capture that in the live action stuff yet.
No, I agree.
Um,
I agree.
yeah.
The prime example of things not translating would be the scene in Ahsoka where she's on the ship in space trying to fight the attacking fighters. They pulled that off 3 different times in Clone Wars, and it was amazing. It looked great. It worked. It perfectly
She
fit the
went out and
script.
stood where she stood on the ship
Right.
outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet in Ahsoka in live action, it was just kind of like, huh? It
Yeah.
just
Who would
looked
do
like, why would you even do that? That's just
that?
ridiculous. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's definitely something that doesn't translate. So
I still want to know, like, if I see the Jedi there with the blazing saber on the wing of the ship, I'm sorry, I'm just firing at the rest of the ship.
just fire at the ship. Take out the
Yeah,
ship and you take out the
it's like
Jedi.
let's
Yeah.
see how powerful you are when you're floating in space.
Yeah.
Leia, but that aside,
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother story.
yeah, she was one of
Um,
the chosen twins, but um, but anyway, uh, so yeah, I'm happy, but I think we're both sort of a little jaded at this point, and I want to bring up some other news now that we've
yeah, yeah,
talked this to death and gone
sure.
all over the place, all over the map.
Yeah.
There's a story out there, though I don't know how true it is, that Pedro Pascal is joining yet another movie franchise or something. I can't remember which one it is now. Who's he play?
Hmm.
Oh, Mr. Fantastic, maybe
Oh,
in the
I haven't
Fantastic
heard.
Four.
Yeah, I haven't heard. Yep.
Yeah, I've heard he's maybe getting cast as that or something
Okay.
else. Anyway, so he's again not going to be available.
Not going to be physically on set for
Sir not
Season
appearing
4.
in this
Sir
film
not
is what we
appearing in
call.
this film. Yeah. That has
Right.
now been exposed as Pedro Pascal.
Right. What the is going on? I mean, what is going on?
Well, the whole thing, I
Why is
mean,
Mandalorian not good enough for this guy?
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe it's the helmet thing, but if he were there, they wouldn't have that problem, I think. I think that's the whole reason the scripts changed back in season 3. I think we were going to get a whole different storyline, had he been there physically wearing the costume, taking the mask off, we would have never had the whole reason for him to go back and, oh, I've got to go baptize myself in the waters beneath Mandalore, and
Yeah,
wear
I
the
feel like
helmet
they've
again.
just wrung all these plots out of the
They came up
necessity.
with all of that, I believe,
Yeah,
because of the
yeah.
fact that he wasn't going to be this. Oh, we got to figure out a way that he can't take the helmet off again. So they did that. He's not there. Then suddenly Bo-Katan Kryze becomes the center of attention, and it's basically Hersha. Now she's the Mandalorian at this point. And it looks like
And
that's
they,
going to
yeah.
continue to be the case in season 4.
And what was bad, the only thing bad about that was that they didn't really prepare us for that.
Right, that's the
It
thing.
was sort of like a magic trick they were trying to pull off without
It's
us
like a bait and
noticing.
switch almost. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I won't go quite that far because sometimes there's bait and switch and then there's we have no choice. But if you have no
No,
choice,
you're right. You're right.
if your guy's not there and you have no choice and you have to do this, I think you let people know beforehand. You say
Right.
like, look, fans, I know some of you are gonna be disappointed, but I hope you guys go along with us on this because of circumstances, somewhat beyond our control. We've had to change direction somewhat, and then let us go to it with open eyes and judge it instead of
Yeah.
every episode going, oh my god, is she gonna take over the whole show again?
Right.
Is
Right.
this, or will it be different this
Just let
coming
us
week?
know before the season starts. That's the way it's going.
Right.
Yeah, to keep us from say, wait, is that happening now? Yeah, exactly.
But
So
in the end of season 2, Mandalorian, I was all in with this character who had gone through
sure.
this whole journey and taken his helmet off in front of other people, and I just don't think the Creed and the Mandalorian Creed needs to be all that.
No,
It doesn't need to dominate a show for 5 or 6 seasons.
no,
It
I
just was
agree.
never that important. And it was more about his character development than whatever conflict you can get among the Mandalorians with it. But to put him back in that is just weird. It's
Yeah,
never sat right with
to
me.
completely undo it. Yeah.
We're rooting for a cult,
Hmm.
we're
Yeah.
rooting for a cult. And it's kind of like when you're rooting for Boba Fett and his, junior water salesman. It's like that's creepy. Isn't it? I
Yeah,
mean, is
absolutely.
Boba Fett recruiting kids to do whatever? Isn't he like Fagin or whatever from Oliver Twist? I mean, it's just getting weird, and I don't know, but I just want to see Pedro Pascal's a star. There's no question. But why can't why did these serious actors or whatever you want to call them get so
Mhm.
bored with their Star Wars characters 5 minutes in and then just go try to find anything else they can do? Why not see if they could do something with this character where you get to act with your actual face?
Right. because it's not like they weren't
Otherwise,
offering that.
yeah, otherwise retire him. Let Brendan Wayne play his brother or something.
Yeah.
They've done goofier things in shows,
Hmm.
and give him a shot. Gives, he's embodying the character already.
Yeah,
And
and this is not to also take anything away from, the character of Bo-Katan.
no,
I think she's great, and Katie Sackhoff has done a fantastic job.
hmm
I could see her running her own show. She's basically done it in the past. She could do it now, and I think she's done a wonderful job. But it just gets back to the point that you made. It's like they didn't tell us this going in, so now we're kind of it's less likely for the fan base to embrace it, and more for them to be hesitant about, wait, what's going on here? And just be confused.
yeah.
So, I think they
And
did themselves a disservice with that.
if you're disappointed, and if you're one of the fans who's like, gosh, why can't they fix this? And
Hmm.
then you have her naturally super excited because she's getting, a super career opportunity,
Sure.
and she's going on smiling wide and promoting this. And, it leaves a bad taste with you about her, which is completely unjustified
Right.
because
Completely.
she deserves zero, less than zero negativity her way,
Absolutely.
right? Because
Yep.
she's fantastic.
Hmm.
She's one of, if I was going to cast a show, I don't know that I would, thinking of the actors out there, she'd be at near the top of the
Oh, she'd
list.
be on top of the short list. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're doing some kind of action show or something,
Hmm.
the experience she's got,
Of
how
course.
convincing she is. She's proven it over and over again. I mean, she's proven herself. She doesn't have to prove anything to us.
No, she doesn't. Absolutely not.
But anyway, I'm just saying, like, when she goes on and is so gleefully promoting the show that has become her, if you're
Hmm.
not used to that and you're not accepted the idea yet, and you kind of feel like you've been fooled, it's just a bad situation
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
some people to be involved in, for the fans in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, but I thought a lot of people really, really, really crapped on season three. Um, I didn't think it was that bad. I thought they handled it in a way, in a
The
way that worked.
I agree. I mean, I just think that the biggest issue I have with I set season one and two at a much higher level. Season three was still good. It's just that the pacing was just so
All
off.
over the place.
It was
Yeah.
just so off on that season, and I just feel like they really needed to get that figured out, and they could have really edited a lot out. They
Yeah.
just they really drew out a couple of episodes that could have all happened in about 10 minutes.
And
You know,
the aura of mystery was so needless.
yeah.
Like they won't explain things because that gets people talking on the internet and gets
Hmm.
interaction and gets you tuning in next time. Well, I just feel like there's better ways to get you talking on the internet and get you tuning.
Yeah.
Like when the TIE fighters attacked her home, and we had this whole useless storyline of her being depressed or something for no reason that made no sense for the character.
Mm-mm.
I'm sorry. and and I'm glad they shrugged it off immediately, because I
Yeah.
was going to be really bummed about another major character suffering, a bout of lack of self-confidence or whatever. But
Right.
when they have these ships show up, and they're like, wow, this is a mystery. There's no powerful moth around here that could send these, and why would they send them? They should have just announced who it was from the beginning. And that way you have ongoing fight. We waited
Hmm.
so long for Moff Gideon to show up. They should have had that mystery of finding the remains of the shuttle in the very first
Right.
episode,
Yeah.
and brought him in so we could have some good villainy. As it
Yeah.
was, we had them wandering around just doing side quests for most of the
Right. For the
show.
whole show. And then suddenly at the
And
end, oh, there he
yeah,
pops up,
Imperial forces would show up and harass them, but you never got the feeling it was a serious threat. And
Yeah.
also, instead of just sacrificing her castle, they needed to up the stakes. They needed to kill some characters, or do something with, do something bad to some of the characters, put them through it. Um, we, her castle didn't mean anything to any of us,
No.
so they needed to have Moff Gideon in there. Moff Gideon takes away what you love, so that
Hmm.
you hate him,
Yep.
and you want to see
Exactly.
him get. You can't wait for the next episode to see him get his desserts, or you're on his side. You're kind of rooting for him. He's an anti-hero, and you want to see what he does next. Something, but they just totally just kept him out of it. Um, and then they forced him to kind of be a mustache twirling villain at the end because they had to cram everything into 40 minutes or whatever. But
Right.
so anyway, the Pedro Pascal thing, he's their major asset,
I
and
know. And I'm just, yeah.
he's a voiceover artist now. It's like boo.
Yeah. That's basically all there is. So yeah, I'm not happy about that. I'm not surprised by it, but it's disappointing that they weren't able to take the show in the direction that they needed to take it. uh, that I feel like the original series was going to go in. I just, the original season, first season. I just, and we've said this before, I'm disappointed that we didn't get, as much as I like the Mandalorian that we've got, I'm disappointed we didn't just get that almost episodic sort of week after week, the bounty of the week, it's like him going out and just taking care of what he needs to get done. And I just think that would have been a fun take on things, especially in a world of shows that are all intertwined, and
Right.
this leads to this, and every single show is the next chapter.
You can't turn
You
around
get
without
back to
bumping
that
into a major
episodic
character
feel.
somewhere. Yeah.
Right. It's like I would love to have a show that gets back into that sort of episodic format. I think it would have been, and that would have been a good vehicle for it, I feel.
We've
So
been we've been kind of all over the place today, but these are
yeah,
two major, this stuff is all intertwined. You notice I won't even really, I'll just bring it up quickly, but you notice we don't even talk about Kathleen Kennedy. Um, this is a major thing though. I mean, she's in charge still.
absolutely, yeah.
And
Yeah,
despite,
she's still above
right.
Filoni. It's not like this has
Yeah, he's
replaced her or
creative,
anything.
chief creative officer. Like I said,
Right.
that could be the guy who comes up with the games on the ship.
Right.
On the cruise. It doesn't, he comes up with the colored magnets that you just
Yeah.
put on your door or whatever. It's like, but we try to stay out of this whole Kathleen Kennedy thing because we're not Lucasfilm insiders. We support
Right.
women
We don't
in
know what's really
positions
going
of
on over
power.
there. Yeah.
We're not afraid of women having power. We don't hate women or anything like that.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that people are against or hate women either. I'm
No,
just
no, no.
saying we
Exactly.
steer clear of that kind of negativity every chance we get.
Yep.
We bring our own different negativity. We have plenty of that to deal with without that kind of poison. So,
Right.
but who's in charge of Lucasfilm is going to be there whether we like it or not, right? I
Sure.
mean,
Of
we can't
course.
pick the next CEO of Disney or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
Um, so anyway, all we can do is just reflect what we feel about it. And I feel like there's been a mixed bag. I look at Lucasfilm as a whole. And yes, there are decisions. I was, when The Last Jedi came out, it boggled my mind. I still don't understand it. Um, and there's things that are very suspicious to me there, but as far as, maybe some people had agendas and things like that, but I can't prove any of that. And
Yeah.
it's just what I see with
Right.
my eyes and what I deduce, and I don't really have a leg to stand on with that stuff. But I love Rogue One. I love Mandalorian. They've done a lot of things that I've super enjoyed, so I can't just throw them all out,
Yeah.
and say,
It all
um,
sucks. All of it is
yeah,
garbage. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
that's ridiculous. Yeah.
and all of them have sat on the same stages together. I know there's just like any place, there's going to be things in the background. Like, did Favreau want to be chief creative officer?
Right.
I doubt it. Him being a director and
Same
probably,
here. Yeah, I doubt that too.
he probably wants the freedom to not be linked to Lucasfilm in the rest of his creative life.
Right.
But you never know.
Or it seems like Filoni's okay with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I do think I like the fact that Favreau and Filoni seem to have this great relationship.
Hmm.
They promote things together. They can stand to be in the same room together.
Yep.
What they show us is very positive. What they put in front of us in the public is very positive.
Right.
And I think Favreau is a likable dude from what I've seen. We don't know anything about him, his real personality
Yeah.
behind the scenes, but he's also another director who looks at the technological vision of things and tries to figure out how to make it work with the organic situation of film and telling stories. I just think they need an injection of urgency, and they need to sit down and figure out uh, not just how we can spin off all these different things and tell small individual stories, but since we've let the big story creep in, or we've let a bigger vision creep in, what are we going to do with that? Um, because that could be key to this whole thing. They had a huge reaction when they brought Luke in at the end of Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean Luke needs to ever appear in Mandalorian again. He doesn't have to, but
Right.
there's something there still. That is, if you're going to explore this era of Star Wars and stay in this timeline, you're going to involve some of these stories and characters and things that are going to have a potentially huge impact. What are you going to do with that power?
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. That's a great question.
yeah, uh, and what are you going to do with your big story? I like your idea of, yeah, we do need some series that just deliver on what they say they're going to be and just keep to a self-contained story.
Hmm.
there's all
Yeah,
kinds of cool short stories you can tell.
absolutely. Not
You know,
everything has to connect all to the same exact
no.
story. Yeah.
Look at Star Wars Visions. You know,
Hmm.
a lot of them just
That's
have
great.
very compelling mini stories
Hmm.
told visually and with dialogue and action. Um, so, but I still think one of the big things for me to be satisfied is I need more villains. I need more real villains. I need a little bit more heroes with that I know what their motivation is and have to earn it a bit. I
Hmm.
do like the positive energy of the guy they cast as Ezra. Um, I do almost think the whole thing might have been better if they'd killed him off. They really needed to kill someone off to make Thrawn an actual threat. You know,
Yeah.
instead you can sneak on board his ship by just putting on stormtrooper armor like you do everywhere else in the Empire. Like they
Right.
still haven't figured this out. And that ginormous brain of Thrawn's, and he still can't figure out when the 5'4" guy is
Yeah.
wearing the stormtrooper armor that it's not an actual stormtrooper.
Right. Yeah.
Captain, when
It'll be
did we
interesting to
start
see over the
recruiting
next
Ewoks?
few years, because I know we have a few upcoming projects with Skeleton Crew. We've got the final season of Bad Batch coming soon. The Acolyte. Those are, I guess, the next big three things coming out. So it'll be interesting to see. And now most of these, of course, are pretty much done before
Yeah,
this change was made at the top. But after beyond those shows, I guess we'll start really get a taste of what it's going to be like, what Star Wars is going to be like under Filoni's guidance. So
yeah,
it'll be
yeah.
a ways to wait to get to that, but it'll be interesting. I hope he still has my faith. So we'll see.
He has mine too. I just hope that him as creative director, I hope they don't give up on letting a lot of different people have their shot
Yeah,
at
yeah.
Star Wars. Because Filoni is great as far as trying to keep it, as far as we know, trying to keep it kind of a Lucas vision, you know, kind of keep it Star Wars, but also there's some dullness there.
Yeah,
You know, and there's some
very
retread, like
true.
you said, it's just retreading ideas a lot of times. So we do need some new things, and we do need some fire and energy.
Hmm.
And so when you bring new people in, I think that's what happens. And a lot of times it's probably through conflict. Star Wars was born in a lot of conflict,
Oh,
you know.
absolutely. Oh man,
Um,
big time conflict.
yeah. So and every one of the original trilogy had conflict involved in its creation
Hmm.
and stuff. So but anyway, yeah, I think we're pretty much there on the same page. We're just waiting to be won back over.
Yeah,
Um, and for me, it's almost one episode at a time. The other bit of news I wanted to real quick touch on was that they were
sure.
saying the Mandalorian might not have another season; it just might have a movie.
Hmm.
Have you heard that?
I've heard rumors of that. Yeah,
I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, but I hope that's not the case.
I agree.
Although sometimes I feel like they could get done what they really need to get done in a movie, in a long
Oh, I
movie.
think so too. Yeah,
Um,
no greater example was that Obi-Wan edit, that
right.
unfortunately I know you never got to see, but that still to this day just blows my mind how good that was. And then you go back and watch
Yes.
the series, it's like,
Yes.
oh, he cut out literally 4.5 hours that didn't need to be in there, and the rest what was left was just like, wow, this is fantastic.
Yeah, it's and that show. It's almost like because they cast a child in there, they all of a sudden felt like they were half the show was for kids, and they needed to put
Yeah.
things that kids would laugh at in there or something.
Hmm.
And really, no, it was a very dark story, you know, about murder and mayhem and stuff.
Hmm.
And
And kidnapping, and yeah,
yeah, and
exactly.
yet another, what do you call it? Midlife crisis for another Jedi or whatever.
Right.
It's just not kid stuff, you know, no matter how
No.
many times you have Flea jumping around as a space pirate.
Yeah,
but
exactly. Oh, that's a good point.
uh but yeah, no, the I hope that the Mandalorian comes back as a series. That's where I like it best. And I hold out hope that they will come up with a super tight, super badass, even if it's a couple episodes shorter or something. Just make each episode awesome. Um, if it's filler, just have it tell its own great story, like you
Yeah.
said, the bounty hunting or whatever, because they seem to have gone back to that.
Hmm.
And otherwise, you know, the big story, I've been intrigued by that, and let's do something good with that. and
Yeah, I
don't know
agree.
what's next, but
No, I don't know what's next either, but I'm just hoping they up the stakes a little bit and give us a little bit more oomph for the per episode.
I
I feel like Ahsoka was just a little too comfortable. You know, it
yeah,
was just
and I
it was
also
just
felt like maybe we went to another galaxy to free ourselves of the shadow of the sequels, so we
right.
could do whatever we want. But now there's only two characters,
Right. It's like
well,
what good is
three,
that
the
gonna do?
droid
Yeah,
in
the
this
droid,
other
yeah.
galaxy,
Yeah,
and they could come back if they find a whale.
oh
So
the yeah, he Hawaiian. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure what that's going to do, except for the Ahsoka show. You know,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to change the thrust of where all these characters in the Filoni verse or whatever are going right now. Maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
anyway,
No. Anyway, well, that's our thoughts at this point. Let us know what you think in the comments. Where how happy are you with what's happened to this point as far as Star Wars content since Disney took over? And where do you think this is? Do you agree with the decision for with Filoni being the creative director? If not, you know, or if so, tell us why. See what you think. We'd love to hear from you. Like and subscribe, support the channel. We appreciate you as always, and we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks.
hopefully Gundar will be back.
Yep. Yeah, we definitely need the interesting one of the three back.
Hi there, this is Mike Quinn, and I played Nien Nunb in the Star Wars movies, and I want to say hi to the Cantina Club. Yeah, may the force be with you.